What's up guys, welcome to the video. So this one is going to be my personal take on how you can use a business model, specifically Amazon FBA, to basically free yourself from the confines of a normal kind of location dependent life. So, or in other words, how to just work from anywhere in the world, travel on your own schedule, and basically have this extra layer of location and financial freedom that most of us don't even really realize is possible. So I'm going to tell you my approach to doing that, and then I'm going to tell you why it's not necessarily a good idea to do it with Amazon FBA. So we're here together because we want some combination of these following things. We want time flexibility. We want to feel like we're more in control of our own lives and our work. We want maybe freedom from a boss. Maybe it's purely just financial security. We want to have more money in the bank so that we can have that safety net behind us to be able to do the things that we want to do. And whatever that combination of factors may be, chances are you fit into at least one of them. I know for me, it was mainly about travel was the first reason why I started my Amazon FBA business. I wanted to not be tied to the job that I had at the time, which was basically the most like physically dependent job you could imagine, where I actually had to fly out to the middle of nowhere and live half my life out, basically in the desert. So I was trying to get away as far away as possible from that. So there was the travel aspect and there was also the financial security aspect. I wanted to be able to do that, and or I thought there were alternative pathways, not the same thing. I wanted to be able to travel or make a lot of money. And as it turns out, you can do both with Amazon FBA, but I had these kind of like split desires. So that's what got me started down my own Amazon FBA journey. And so since I started down that pathway 2.5 years ago, that was at the end of 2016, while visiting and traveling through all of these countries and living around the world, I did this while growing my business to the 7-figure level. So last year, 2018, I did over $2 million in sales. So I'm not saying this to brag, I'm just saying this to show you that I do have this foundation and this grounding where I've been able to use Amazon FBA to travel around the world, but do it from a position of financial stability. So in this video, I want to talk to you about how I would do this again, the steps that I would follow to maybe even accelerate this if I was going to do this again for myself quicker. So if you want to be a digital nomad or you want to travel around the world and you want to do it with money in your pocket and you want to do it properly, this is how I would do it. Before we begin, I'm assuming that you know the step-by-step process involved in actually getting your first products on Amazon FBA up and running profitably. So if you don't, then subscribe to the channel. I have lots of information about that. I actually put a link to a playlist up here that has probably the most detailed tutorials on YouTube or on the internet. And if you've already been through all that material and you want more step-by-step guidance, then definitely check out the first link in the description below for my course, the FBA Freedom Accelerator, where I teach everything that I know. It's over 18 hours of content about how to start an Amazon FBA business. So with that said, let's talk about how to travel and work from anywhere in the world using Amazon FBA. I'm going to break this down into a 5-step process. And then at the end, I'll give you a 12-month game plan, which is pretty similar to the one that I followed when I was building this up for myself. And you can take that and follow it as you will as well. So step 1, understand your why. This one's really important because you're going to have to work for 6 to 12 months to get what you want. And if you haven't actually really critically thought about what it is that you actually want, you will end up so far off track without ever realizing it. And then you'll have wasted, 6 to 12 months, something like that. And that can be something that, can cause a lot of regret. So it's really important that right at the start, before doing anything, spend that time upfront. If you're already starting your Amazon FBA business now, then stop for a second and just think about, what it is that you're actually after. I recommend just journaling, and you don't have to make this fancy at all. You can just use something like a Moleskine book if you want to write, with a pen and paper. It's really nice. I actually journal everything in Evernote, which is just a software program. But the main idea is that you have to get in touch with your own thoughts and feelings and desires. And I know this sounds wishy-washy, but it really helps. And just work out what it is that you want. In the FBA Freedom Accelerator, I've got over 100 students now, and I know that not everybody wants to be a nomad like me. Not everybody wants to, make this money and then achieve financial freedom and then suddenly uproot their entire life and just go travel around the world. That isn't for everyone at all. A lot of people do want to be able to go on holidays more often, for example. But for a lot of people, it's just about, for example, having more time to spend with your kids, and that's completely fine. Another thing I've noticed just traveling as a backpacker, as a nomad, is that a lot of people travel to escape problems that they have back at home or back in their real life, so to speak. And you can create a really fantastic, profitable business and be making a lot of money, but those problems will still be there. So if you're just like traveling to escape that, at some point you're gonna have to come back and face those problems. So when you go through this journaling process, work out if that's really what you're trying to escape. If that's the case, then going down this entire whole risky pathway of starting a business and putting your money down on the table that you might lose, it's not really going to solve that problem. So you could probably do this much easier by just looking inwards and fixing that up for yourself. Next thing to consider when it comes to understanding your why is, what are you really looking for? Are you trying to, build long-term prosperity for yourself, so that you can raise a family, so you can, buy a house or, start investing in property, things like that? Or do you just want enough money to go and party for a couple of years? This is a bit of a dangerous point right here, because if you do just want to pick up everything and just go backpacking and drink a lot and party, you won't have the dedication. While doing that, you won't be able to actually produce a successful Amazon business in the first place. So think about, are you just trying to take the easiest possible path to, again, that traveling life or whatever? Or are you really trying to build something sustainable, something long-term? So that will completely change the amount of money that you need, the size of the business that you need to build with Amazon FBA. It will also dictate the amount of time that you need to spend in upfront to get the business going. But either way, when you're understanding your why, when again, you are journaling and just recording your thoughts, if you are just looking for a sort of quick money-making opportunity, something to get some cash so that you can very quickly just go and relax again, or go to the beach and sip cocktails while you're working, that sort of thing you see on Instagram, you probably won't be able to build a successful Amazon FBA business, because it does take a lot of time and consistent effort. Number two, understand the requirements. What are the non-negotiables, the things that you will need somewhere, in some place, to be able to start your Amazon FBA business? Some of these are obvious, some of these not so obvious, but if you don't have them, you will have a lot of trouble starting an Amazon FBA business if you are already traveling around the world. So the first couple of things are really obvious. You need a laptop or a computer of some sort. You need internet connection. And now you probably take this for granted if you are working at home, but if you're traveling around the world, particularly in the developing world, there isn't that much internet, or it's not as readily available. And so you'll spend more and more time looking for internet, and that kind of sucks. Second thing is a stable workspace. Now, again, if you're working from home or you're working from, you have some sort of stable workspace already, it's probably not an issue. However, recognize that if you start to go traveling and backpacking, for example, or even staying in Airbnbs, a lot of the time you just don't get that same ability to focus and concentrate when your workspace isn't good. And I've kind of made a rookie mistake, I guess, in that this studio that you see behind you, this is a boat. So this is like the main saloon in my boat, and it's not a great workspace. So I'm actually trying to work around that right now, because I know that if I don't have a stable workspace, my ability to manage my business goes right down real quick. Over the last 2.5 years, this has been one of the biggest issues for me, is actually just being able to have a stable workspace where I can sit somewhere quiet and just focus. Because your ability to focus and concentrate really will define the quality of the business that you can build and the speed with which you can do it. The next requirement is simply a place to receive samples. This is probably another thing that you take for granted if you just live in a house, but if you're moving around, it gets increasingly difficult. If you're in other countries, a lot of other countries, it's actually much more expensive to receive samples. You need somewhere to receive samples. I do not recommend starting Amazon FBA if you don't want to receive them or can't receive them, and you will just cause a lot of problems for yourself down the line. So have a place like an Airbnb or an apartment or somewhere where you can, or even a friend's place somewhere where you can reliably get samples, and stay at that place if you need to, or do what you need to do, but have somewhere where you just don't have to worry about where it's going to be shipped, how much it's going to cost you, how long it's going to take, whether it'll arrive, things like that. Next requirement is bank accounts. So again, if you're set up in one place, this is fine. But as soon as you start to move somewhere else, or you want to incorporate somewhere else, or maybe you're trying to do tax minimization, this stuff starts to take a lot of time. So I recommend, if you're just starting out, just open up bank accounts, incorporate wherever it is that you currently live. Do it while you're there. It's much easier, trust me. The last requirement, and this is one that sneaks up on so many people, is having enough cash flow. So that either means money to live, so that you can eat, so that you can enjoy yourself if you're traveling. It also means money to reinvest into your Amazon business. And again, this isn't something that you can easily get when you have committed to a life of travel, for example. If you're still back home, you can hustle, you can sell things on the side, you can get a part-time job, probably easier than you can elsewhere. And so if you haven't planned for that or understood those requirements, then you can really run into a lot of problems if you sort of pick up and go prematurely. And if you don't have a lot of savings, you could be cutting things fine, because now not only are you investing a lot of capital into your Amazon business as you're trying to grow it, and normally that's one of the most critical things, is how much money can you put in at the start. But now you've got to consider your travel expenses, the quality of life while you're moving around. And basically these things can really add up. They don't really work well together. So have capital, or have savings basically built up before you commit to doing this. Number three, just understand that the reality of what you're doing does not align with what you will see on social media or what people will tell you. So there are a couple of things to consider here. First one is survivorship bias. You are going to see success stories like my own, more often than you're going to see failure stories of people who tried what you're trying to do and then failed and gave up, or they hit some obstacle that they couldn't overcome. Those people are less likely to tell you about their stories than people like me, people who've succeeded. So what you may see is you may think you have a 50% chance of succeeding or of becoming really profitable and financially free. But the reality statistically is that 90% of businesses will fail. And if you are a digital nomad or somebody trying to travel around the world while starting a business, that 90% rule will still apply to you. And in fact, 95% will never actually achieve any amount of passive income. Now, that's not to say that you can't be in that 5 or 10% that do succeed, that do make it work. Just understand that the odds, they are stacked against you. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just like a challenge. It's a competition. There's nothing greater than the feeling of overcoming odds when they're stacked against you. But do accept the reality that most people aren't going to make it. And so if you are, you need to think intelligently. You need to be dedicated. You need to go into this with the right mindset and the right resources as well, and the right training. Number 4, build your foundation on stable ground. So while that dream of just like picking everything up and going and leaving everything behind you and starting this business and then starting a new life, traveling around the world, seems really appealing for a lot of people, the reality is that when you go back to the requirements that I mentioned, particularly like stability, just being able to take things for granted, basically, you can not take most of those things for granted. And so you want to get as much possible done where you are at home. You do have, a safety net. Maybe you're living with your parents, which there's nothing wrong with that. If you don't have to pay rent, like that's money that you can put into your Amazon business and grow it faster. Having, again, the internet, the stable workspace, not having to spend all this time worrying about things, and also not getting distracted by traveling, by partying, by meeting new people. As much as possible, you want to wait until you've gained some measure of success with your Amazon business. So in my personal case, I basically left before I had any cash flow coming in, but that's my own personal circumstance. I had a lot of savings in the bank. I knew that if everything went to crap, I would still be fine for a long time. And I also didn't just start traveling around. I actually went to Colombia and stayed there for 6 months. I basically didn't move because I knew that first I had to get the business growing. So I did that. Yeah, I was overseas, but it was like normal life. It wasn't like just traveling around. Again, it wasn't like the glorified sort of social media images that you see. And stepping back a little bit, keep in mind that there are a few things that do require you to be in person to get them opened up. So bank accounts is the main thing. If you do actually move to another country, just recognize that takes a long time. That can be a lot of in-person visits as well. So just don't plan to be just completely free when you're starting this, going through this period of change. As much as possible, you want stability. You want to build that foundation on stable ground. So you follow these 4 steps. You've built your foundation on stable ground. Your Amazon business is starting to grow. This brings us to point number 5. Keep your head down and keep working. So I can't say how long it will take you to get from the starting point to where you're happy with your profits that are coming each month so that you can just basically kick back and start to enjoy it. I can't say how long that will take or how much effort it will take or how many challenges you have to go over to get there. But basically the rule is the longer that you can put that off and the more that you can put that off and just continue putting more effort in, if you're putting the effort in the right way, the longer term your success will be. The greater your Amazon business will grow, the faster it will grow, the more it will compound over time. And again, let's go back to the first point, which was understanding your why. So it depends on your aspirations here. It depends what sort of financial security net you want. It depends what size of business you want, whether you want to really be leaving a legacy, or if you just literally wanted enough money to go and travel around the world. Like my original goal was 40,000 Australian dollars per year, which is not a lot. Then that will define how long you want to wait, how many products you want to launch before you can sort of put it into maintenance mode. And just go enjoy yourself a little bit. Long term, I can't stress it enough, you are going to be much better off. Basically, if you can wait until at least you get to the scaling point. So the point at which you're hiring VAs to do things for you, you're starting to build a team around you, you're launching enough products that you can do it consistently as well. You'll start to see the effects if you do this correctly in your Amazon business over the period of a few years. I'll put a screenshot up somewhere, just showing you my own increase in wealth over time. And you can see it sort of just zoom up, it starts to ramp up. That's the compounding effect. So if you're not familiar with that, go and Google it, but basically delayed gratification is the key here. So keep your head down and keep working. Okay, so I wanted to finish this video with a 12-month game plan that if you want to be a digital nomad, you want to start a business while experiencing as much of the world as possible. This is pretty similar to the game plan that I used. I didn't really plan it in advance, but it's how it worked out well for me. And again, I've done all of this while building my business pretty rapidly year on year. So it's 12 months, and I recommend months 0 to 3, stay at home. Just stay put. Do your product research, start getting all of your samples, basically go through the entire process, getting your first product or your first products online, do everything to get yourself, again, that foundation built, get bank accounts, so go and open a company if you need to, or do that all in your home country before you go anywhere. Anything else you can think of where you want to be physically present, so that might also mean, for example, photography. Later on, you can outsource most of these things, but at the start, it's just easier to be able to do it yourself. So spend the first 3 months building that foundation for yourself before you even think about going anywhere. So do that for the first 3 months. If you're quick, you can start to launch your first products in that time, but at the very least, you've got products in mind, you have the cash and the capital available to launch them. Basically, everything's set up. So then months 3 to 9, move overseas. But don't start traveling. Literally go to one spot, one country, base yourself there for 6 months. Make it a low-cost country so you don't have to spend much, because again, that's more money that you can put back into your Amazon business. So don't go somewhere super expensive. Go somewhere where you can save as much as possible. Base yourself in that country. Get a stable workspace. So whether that means going to a co-working space, which are basically just like offices where contractors, where digital nomads go, freelancers, and everyone can basically like rent your own desk for the day, for the week, for the month, whatever. I don't personally do that. I just get an Airbnb and work in the kitchen normally. But basically have that workspace for yourself. It's going to be so important at the start, always, but particularly at the start when you need to be able to focus, you need to be able to learn. And that's the next thing to do in this 6 month period. Definitely be enjoying yourself a little bit, but recognize that your main focus right now is learning. So you're launching those first products that we got ready in the first 3 months. Now they're being launched and you're basically getting as much data back from them as possible. So you need to start optimizing things. You need to start experimenting with your ranking strategy. You're doing it overseas and you're getting a taste of what it's like to be, a digital nomad, or to basically free yourself from what you were doing before. You'll get some exposure to having to deal with, crappy Wi-Fi, things like that. But it's pretty controlled because you're not just moving from place to place. You're not just aimlessly wandering. You're still focused on your business first. So that was the first 9 months. Now in month 10, I want you to do things a bit differently and just stop for a second. So put your business in maintenance mode. So again, you've got these products, they are making you money already, and you've done all that learning, that testing. See what happens when you stop putting that much effort in, right? Go traveling, spend a couple of weeks or a month or something, and just go live that dream life that you wanted to do, but for a short period of time, for a controlled period. You can test a few things here while you're doing this. You can start to see what it's like if you, for example, if you're traveling in hostels or hotels or whatever else, and you're moving around. How much harder is it for you to do that work when you're doing that? How much harder is it, or how much time do you spend trying to find internet and doing things like that? See how sustainable it is for you. For some people, they love it. They do it really well. Me, for example, I can't stand it. It kills my productivity, and I have to really break these things up where I'll work for 6 months and then I'll have a month off. So you'll start to see those challenges. Where do they pop up? You'll also start to see how sustainable is the business that you've built. Does everything stop as soon as you stop putting the effort in? Or more likely, if you've done things right, you'll start to see that Amazon is actually a really cool business model because you'll be doing less work, you'll still be making money, and you'll be enjoying life a lot more. And that's when you start to see how cool this business model is, how liberating it can be, where you can be making money, living life on your own terms, as long as you set those boundaries and you set those constraints. So that was month 10. Now in the last 2 months, 11 and 12, go back to one spot again. Go back and focus on growth. If you had products in the pipeline that you're doing product research on, this is when you launch them. But what I want you to do is go back and evaluate everything that you've done in the last 12 months. Start asking yourself these questions of what worked, what did you enjoy, what didn't work, what didn't you enjoy? And again, whether you're doing this on paper, evaluating it, just writing down your thoughts, or whether you do it on Evernote on your computer, just have a methodology that works for you. And as you do this and you start writing these things down, you start to recognize, well, how close are you getting to your original goal? That was that why that we talked about. Are you getting towards that financial security? Are you living the travel life that you wanted, at least during that 1 month? Is that where you need to go for the next year? And then most importantly, celebrate your first year of financial independence. It's a freaking amazing feeling. I can't express it strongly enough how good it is to be able to do both of these things at once, to be able to make money on your own terms, probably more money than you were making before, to travel and see the world while doing it. And basically just to know that you're in control of things. So that's my recommended game plan. And I'll just stress one more time that the longer you can delay that gratification, the longer that you can actually put off just traveling, enjoying yourself, the more you'll end up with financial security and the ability to travel on your own terms. So that's my game plan. That's also the 5-step process that I recommend if you want to be able to travel around the world using Amazon FBA. And remember, if you want step-by-step guidance on exactly how to build an Amazon business, the actual steps, the mechanics, everything that I've done to really build that up to the 7-figure level, then do check out the FBA Freedom Accelerator. That's my course. It's the first link in the description down below. I do hope you'll join us. There's more than 100 of us now in the community. We're in there building awesome businesses together and really enjoying the process. So I hope to see you in there. And either way, hope you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.